Crete, island of light, the cradle of Zeus, sun-drenched coastlines, picturesque villages, and majestic mountains. No wonder that even the gods felt comfortable here. Heraklion is the capital of the largest and most southerly Greek islands, on which a highly developed culture has existed for 4,000 years. The Venetians built massive fortresses to defend the island against the Turks. Connected by gangways, the defensive towers were equipped with cannon. Located in an old and picturesque harbour, the citadel of Koules is proof of the hard fighting which once took place around Heraklion. The Venetian fortress appears even more powerful as it contrasts with the snow-white yachts in the foreground. Busy traffic and hectic life don't stop in the modern city. Visitors are surprised to be greeted with old buildings and ancient excavations right in the middle of the city. At one time, the Titus church was a domed mosque, and today reflects the various epochs of Cretan history. After the Arabs came the Christians. Named after the city's governor and richly decorated with lions' heads, the Morosini fountain formed part of the water supply in the center of the Plaza Venizelos. The King Minos Cathedral is shaped in the style of Western European classicism of the 19th century, with structures featuring Byzantine architecture. The Agia Ekaterina Church accommodates an interesting collection of some of the most important icons of Cretan history. Knossos, capital of Crete at the time of King Minos, son of the god Zeus and the Phoenician princess, Europa. Abducted by Zeus, and in the form of a white bull, Princess Europa was taken to Crete, where she gave birth to a son. According to Greek mythology, the culture of the Western world began with him. In 1878, the wonderful frescoes of the Knossos Palace were discovered by a rich Cretan businessman, who was also an archaeology enthusiast. Two storerooms were excavated, within which 10 storage vessels were discovered. The Knossos Palace was a magnificent building with up to 7 floors and around 1,400 rooms, which served as living quarters, administration, storage, and courtly celebration. Most of the ruins are part of the new palace, as the first was built 2,000 years before the birth of Christ. As fate would have it, an earthquake destroyed it shortly after it was built. The conical pillars of the Minoist Palace were impressively reconstructed by Sir Arthur Evans, a matter now disputed. With concrete, iron and striking colour, the idea was to portray a picture of palace life and culture. Airwells, pillared halls and a sewage system were already known. This huge 21,000 square metre area is a gigantic monument of the past. From here, Crete's king ruled over 100 towns. Of special note is the well-maintained throne room, which contains the original throne of King Minos. Lassithi is the name of northern Crete's fertile plateau. There were once thousands of windmills with white sails pumping water onto the fields. Today's farmer prefers diesel-driven pumps. Thanks to the fertile ground and natural underground water reserves, agriculture has flourished for centuries on the plateau's 60 square kilometres. Special grapes and olives thrive here, as well as wheat, potatoes and other vegetables. As this roadless natural fortress was so secure, at the beginning of Venetian rule in the 13th century, many of the island's inhabitants came to retire here. Here the fatherly god Zeus was born. Here bathed his daughter Athene. Odysseus was stranded on the island. And here the painter El Greco saw the light of the world. The Gortys Ruins are reminders of the moving history of an old town. Initial prosperity came at the time of Dora in the 5th century BC, when Gortys became the most powerful town of the Messara Plain as it subjugated Phaistos and Matala. The first written law in ancient Europe was discovered here, written on stone tablets in Doric dialect. When the Romans came, they made Gortys the capital of the province of Crete and Kyrenaica, which included Egypt and parts of North Africa. Gortys was once a prosperous city. Everywhere in the olive groves between the hills can be found the scattered remnants of its past cultural riches. Of the Titus Basilica, all that remains is the old area. The three naves of this monumental early Christian bishop's church are still recognizable. Over its huge pillars curves a crossed dome. The altar room is adorned with icons. Icons, religious paintings which are worshipped by the faithful, must be created to the most strict and precise requirements. Reminders of Roman rule, these excavated statues indicate the great influence of a well-disciplined culture. The ruined town of Agia Triada is an archaeological enigma. Was this the country seat of an aristocrat or a prince? Or was it of religious significance? Triada means Holy Trinity and was named after a nearby church. Compared to other palace grounds, a central courtyard is missing. After the demise of the Minoan culture, the Mycenaeans built on its ruins. To the north of the palace are the remains of a residential area and 8 ancient shops, the only known example of a Minoan market. But whatever existed here, the finds of Agia Triada are especially magnificent and extensive. Clay pots, vases, mugs, as well as a sarcophagus. The residential rooms of this culture are still recognizable today, plus storerooms and a paved street with a small river which once flowed to the sea. On this legendary sun-blessed island, the Minoan culture reigned over 4,000 years ago, and the many fascinating relics of this era can still be admired today. With its beautiful sandy beaches, the horseshoe-shaped bay of Matala is a popular coastal resort. After viewing the archaeology, a swim in the surf is a refreshing experience. At the northern edge of the bay, the caves in the sandstone cliffs were hand-dug and probably served as early Christian or Roman graves. In the 1960s, hippies settled here. But time has outgrown them, and they've long since disappeared. Today, the busy beach mainly attracts the younger element. Many visitors come here to enjoy the brilliant sunsets. The waves gently caress the craggy rocks in the bay. Due to the Minoan palaces, Phaistos enjoys the most impressive location on the plateau, with a view over the distant Messara Plain. An imposing open stairway leads to the western entrance of the palace. Its 12 steps measure 14 meters wide and have been partially carved out of the rock face. After Knossos, Crete's second largest palace has many similarities in terms of its basic structure and architecture. Rather than make fanciful reconstructions, Italian archaeologists chose to keep to the original foundations and walls. Huge pottery jugs, which most likely served as storage containers for olive oil and other natural products, were retrieved in good condition from the ruins of the storeroom. Phaistos was first built in 1900 BC, but was destroyed 200 years later. However, a new palace was built on its original location. With a beautiful panoramic view on its west side, the undulations of the magnificent central courtyard enabled the proportions of the old palace to be seen. The signs of Minoan palace architecture was the opposite of classical Greek aesthetics. Narrow, angled passageways and interconnecting rooms. Agia Galini is often described as a quiet fishing village, but during the summer months, it's the most lively bathing resort on Crete's south coast. Young, pleasure-seeking tourists favor the beach and nightlife, which guarantees them a good time. But Agia Galini has managed to maintain its original atmosphere, with fishing boats in the harbour and crystal clear water lapping the shoreline. Tavernas and restaurants invite refreshment, the aroma of food tempting the hungry, and the promise of local wine too good to ignore. A small town with a bishop's residence and priest's seminary, is situated in lush surroundings. Throughout the year, cool, fresh sparkling spring water flows from a fountain decorated with lions' heads. The beautiful home of the father of the gods, Zeus, is the setting for many Greek sagas. The Minotaur, Icarus, Dionysus. Each one of these legendary names is here. There are fertile valleys, picturesque mountain villages, ancient treasures, small fishing villages and sunny beaches. An island to suit any taste. The Arkadi monastery lies isolated on a small plateau, in the midst of hills at the foot of the Siluritis mountains, at the end of a winding road. Even though it has no magnificent artworks or spectacular sights, a visit to this northern mountain area is well worth the effort. (1587), during the time of the Cretan Renaissance, a monastic church was built here, built like a fortress with high external walls which are only interrupted by tiny discreet windows. Around 1700 AD, Arkadi was by now a wealthy monastery, and with more than 300 monks in residence, set a fine example for the rest of the country. During the Turkish rebellion of 1866, the monastery was besieged, and hundreds of men, women and children, rather than flee divided, chose to die here together. As the Turks began the attack, the besieged Cretans set fire to the gunpowder store. Today, the monastery is surrounded by vineyards and olive groves. Since those tumultuous events, only peace and solitude invade this holy place. The welcoming central courtyard invites relaxation and reflection. How much courage and sorrow must these old walls have witnessed in times gone by? Divided into sections, the well-kept Western European-style outer facade extends boldly into the distance. Reconnoitre Crete's rocky south coast by boat. Majestically, the Provelli monastery stands proudly on a cliff top. Several hundred meters under the monastery lies the Provelli oasis, a small freshwater lake lined with palm trees and fed by a mountain stream. The shimmering green water flows over small waterfalls, past well-formed rocks, and into the mini oasis. A beautiful place to swim in crystal clear water and to relax under shady palms. Preveli was one of the richest monasteries in Crete. Today, however, only a few monks live in the much visited Johannes Monastery. The monastery acquired most of its wealth during the Turkish occupation. Because the uncompromising, freedom-loving Cretans did not want to lose the monastery to the Turks, they simply gave it to them. The monks ruled over extensive olive groves, lush grazing fields and fertile agricultural land. Churches, schools and hospitals were financed with the resulting profits. Even today, the monastery is a pilgrimage destination, and its most important icon is said to have a healing effect on eye maladies. Agia Roumeli is best reached by ship, as it also lies on a rocky coast towards the Libyan Sea, only much further west than Preveli. Even in bright sunshine, the breathtakingly dramatic rocky cliffs give an impression of the harshness of the autumn and winter storms. Fishing villages are few and far between. Most activity takes place in the mountains, which seem to rise up from the Aegean. The precipitous rocky coastline of Agia Roumeli is also the starting point to the Samaria Gorge, which is regarded as the largest in Europe. "18 kilometers long, and in places up to 150 meters wide, the gorge stretches from the Libyan Sea up to the heights of Lefka-Ori, or the White Mountains. Although it takes several hours, a tiring walk through the gorge is regarded as an exciting, natural adventure. And each summer, 400,000 people bravely take up the challenge. Until a few centuries ago, the White Mountains were passable only by mule, and therefore offered a safe retreat to wartime partisans. And its unique vegetation has been preserved. This crystal-clear mountain stream of rain and melting snow and ice has carved its way through here over thousands of years, from the Omalos Plateau in the heart of Lefka Ori down to the sea. In order to conserve its flora and fauna, in 1962, the Samaria Gorge was declared a national park. Thus, the residents of its one and only inhabited village had to leave. The ruins of the old stone houses can still be seen today. These date back to the first settlement in the gorge. The most well-known inhabitant of the gorge is the shy Cretan wild goat, known as the krikri. Here too, there was a remote mountain village, for which the tranquil way of life of its occupants inevitably ran out. In the shadow of threateningly precipitous rocks are extremely rare flowering plants, and up to 30 endangered bird-life species breed in the rock walls of the gorge. Chania, Crete's third largest harbour town, in which Venetian architecture and Turkish remains have left their mark. Situated on the north side of the island, at the foot of the White Mountains, on the shores of the Cretan Sea. The well-maintained former church of San Francesco is an ideal setting for the remarkable collection of objects in the town's archaeological museum. Idyllic narrow streets, Venetian palaces, romantic inner courtyards, and the longest harbour promenade in Crete encapsulate this picturesque town. The old town is full of small and cosy tavernas, which offer a relaxing and shady retreat. A trip along the harbour promenade in horse and carriage is a popular way to take in the sights. The harbour's entrance is controlled by a fortress wall, built by the Venetians, that dates from the Middle Ages and which protected the Castelli Hills. Chania is known as Crete's most beautiful town. The romantic atmosphere of the town's old houses and a reinforced fort, which looks down onto a picturesque labyrinth of small alleyways. In Rethymnon, in the northwest of the island, are reminders of Crete's Venetian and Turkish conquerors. Invitingly, its narrow streets are perfect for a stroll. A Venetian loggia, once a meeting place for the town's elite, still adorns the old town today. Within the Venetian fortification, the citadel was an additional fortress to which, in times of danger, the town's population fled for sanctuary. However, the Turks left the fortress unscathed and conquered the town within a day. With its old houses, Turkish minarets and romantic tavernas, the town centre nestles like a pearl on the enchanting small harbour. In the centre of the Fortezza fortress once stood a Venetian cathedral, on the same location on which, in 1646, the Turks built the Sultan Ibrahim Mosque. Today, an impressive domed building remains, plus the base of a few minarets, which, following the town's liberation by the Turks, were hacked down. Megalinizi, Big Island, picturesque harbours, ancient treasures, Greek hospitality. Here the gods spread beauty. On the sunshine island of Crete, on which Alexis Zorba dances the fiery sirtaki, everyone finds their perfect paradise.